The Simpsons where like fucking Fred Grimes is like, ah! How does this happen? You know, like, and then he dies fucking trying to be Homer. Bruce was Fred Grimes, and I was Homer Simpson, you know? And like basically, through this career of mine, I worked very hard, and you can tell, and I put my heart into it and shit. But I don't know everything there is to know about filmmaking. I don't even know half of what there is to know about filmmaking. I figured I'd learn that as I've gone on, and so far my career has been pretty much attending film school in front of everybody while making films. So I've never felt ashamed by that kind of thing. I was like, why would I learn the lenses? It's so fucking boring. Like, all I have to do is say, Dave. And Dave learned the lenses, you know? It's just like Dave never bothered to learn to write screenwriting. To him, that's boring. I do that. Dave knows the lenses and shit. But boy, he was confounded by that. He was just like, man, how did you get this job? And I was like, you approved me. He's like, fuck. But the movie turned out great. I mean, we got along well, and it's well enough to make the movie, that's for sure. The movie turned out absolutely stellar. I'm so happy with it. It's weird, though, because it's not like, you know, Clerks, like, came from here. Hey, this movie didn't come from here. I didn't write it. It's the kind of movie that like washes over you, you eat popcorn, you're like, that's really funny, and you go fuck somebody and forget about it the next day. So it won't grab you like Chasing Amy or fucking be like, oh, I've never seen something like this before, like Clerks. But it'll be like, you know, it's gonna be like a comfy blanket. You're gonna be like, holy shit, this is a movie, this is a cop movie from the 80s, because I'm having fucking Harold Faltermeyer come over and watch it because I want him to score the motherfucker, you know?
That would be awesome.
Totally, I want to make me an 80s buddy cop movie, the one I grew up watching. That's what we did. It's very, very worked out. But, you know, it was weird. Most of the show I had one guy constantly going.
Are you worried about the title? Because obviously you had problems with Secondary Make a Porno, you could market it more arts and a few other places would have taken them.
Yeah.
A couple of dicks is quite a lot worse. Obviously got one of others behind it.
It depends who you ask, man, if a couple of dicks is worse. To Ben/Bethany, yes, a couple of dicks is 2 dicks too many. But some people, when they think about, you know, dicks being detectives and shit like that, they let it ride. The networks have already weighed in. Warner Brothers was smart enough to call up the networks and say, hey, we got a movie called A Couple of Dicks made by the guy that made Jack and Mary Make a Porno, so you know why we're calling. Are you going to give us a hard time with this title because it's about cops? We know it's double entendre, but you know, it's a little risque, but that's the point. So are we going to look at any restrictions for this title? And 2 of the networks, or 3 of the networks, I think it was Fox and TBS, and I think the CW, though I can't vouch for the CW, came back and said, yeah, man, you can run commercials here anytime. As long as you pay for them, you can put fucking commercials on all you want. And then ABC, NBC, and CBS, which are the 3 big networks back in the States, they said, absolutely, but not before 9 p.m. at night. And that's fucking death for a movie. An R-rated movie to just be advertising at 9 p.m. at night, particularly this movie, which is geared at like my father as the audience. Those dudes are watching sports on Saturday and Sunday. You gotta be able to advertise at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So Warner Brothers was just like, look, we're gonna fight the good fight, man. We're gonna go in there, we think maybe if we go at them with like D period, I period, C period, S period, you know, not S period, but detective in charge is what Dick's actually, where the term comes from. There's not normally a K on it. So like if we could do that, maybe that's a way of getting around it, because it's not the spelling with the hard K, which everybody objects to or something like that. But to me, then I'm like, yeah, but isn't that the same as spelling fuck, F-U-C? With periods, you know, they still let you put that in a commercial, like I want to F-U-C you, you know, and I still think they flag it. So we'll see what happens. Warner Brothers, though, has been like, if they're not going to let us advertise before 9, you realize we have to change the title. I'm fine with it. I mean, look, I dig the title, but I didn't write the script, you know, and I'm not the premier author on it. That's why it was such a weird experience making the movie. Wonderful, but kind of weird. Every movie I've ever made, I'm the foremost authority on the material, because I wrote it and shit. So, like, at any given point in production, I was the final answer, because I'm like, well, it's my universe. I made it all up, and I wrote this from day one, and this was my idea, so of course. I started, back in the day when I'd write scripts, I started seeing them in my head the moment I started writing. There's always storyboards up here, so when I got to the set, all I did was shoot the storyboards in my head. So people would be like, don't you want to do something interesting with the camera? I'd be like, no, I didn't see anything interesting in my head. Just a lot of curse words. So I would go on and pretty much, you know, just make shit kind of static. With this, I kind of approached it differently, because I'm like, well, I'll never be the foremost authority on this material, because I didn't write it, I didn't create it. So I'm constantly going to defer to the writers, Rob and Mark Cullen, and be like, what did you guys see in this scene when you were writing it? I hear them out, and if I agree with it, I'll be like, okay, and I try to shoot that. But if I'm listening and go, you know what, I've been doing this a lot in my life. I think I could do that one a little better. I think I could bring something to it. And then I'd go in my direction. Or I'd listen to the cast and hear what they had to say. Or my DP, for the first time in like 15 years, I said, Dave goes, how do you, I go, so we're going to start with our wide. What do you want to go to after that? And he goes, well, I'm sure you just want to go to a fucking standard 2-shot. And I was like, no, Dave, I would like to lay some circular track. And Dave was just like, we've been body snatched. You know, he wasn't used to dealing with a guy that was ambitious. And then I was like, Dave, what do you see? You're the DP, man. For years, I've just been going like, shoot what I see. What do you see? And so suddenly Dave was like, let's try this. I've always wanted to try this. And the movie just looks better and plays better and feels better. It's far more collaborative than anything I've ever done before. So I thought that was kind of cool and something I absolutely want to take with me to the next flick, even if it's a flick I write. Because what I've now learned after 18 years is like, why the fuck would you ever shit on a good idea? You know, that's how Spielberg works. Fucking Edgar Wright told me that's how Spielberg works. Because he was working on the script for Tintin at one point, and he was just like, Spielberg is the guy in the room where like people are shouting out ideas, and he's like, I like that, let's go that. Everybody hear that, we're gonna do that, let's take that. And he just takes all the good ideas and puts it together. He's like, I thought those movies rock, plus it's filtered to the genius of Steven Spielberg. So I was just like, yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of what it's about. Let's be more collaborative, and the movie turns out better. So, heartbreakingly, we may lose the title, but at this point, I don't care, you know? I'm just like, I went through Zack and Miri, and we went through a lot of effort to make the flick, and everybody did their best, and fucking put our best foot forward, and we were all so proud and shit. And then the title fucked us in the end. I'm not gonna see that. I'm like fucking Brody in Jaws 2, Chief Brody. I'm like, I'm not going through that hell again. You know, it's like, I saw a picture. This is a shark. This is a shark. I know what one looks like. And I'm not going through that hell again. And people are like, this is the box office grosses. Same difference. It's a metaphorical shark. So for me, I'm just like, change the title. I don't care. I'm not fucking 22 anymore where I'm like, no way, man. Live and die by the title because I'm an artist and shit. I'm like, fuck it. I call it. You know what? Call it Die Hard. Seriously, just call it Die Hard 5. People will come, they always go to see Die Hard. Or call it Star Wars. People will show up for that too. Call it Star Wars Episode 7. And people will be like, holy shit, they actually did it? And they're like, wait a second, Tracy Morgan's in the Star Wars universe? That's not what it's supposed? Oh my god, the fat guy from Corpse directed it. So I don't care. I don't care what they change the title to. Hopefully we get to keep a couple of discs, but if it changes, I'd rather change the title and have a shot of people seeing it than if I can keep the title and then we live and die with this. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Maybe there's another clever title out there, but it was just so, it's fun. You know, a whole summer people were like, what movie American? I'd be like, a couple of dicks, and they'd be like, they're like, it's Cops, right? I'm like, yeah, it's Cops. You know, maybe it's an American thing. People kind of laugh at that silly thing. But, you know, we just foresaw, like, you know, God, if the movie does well,